Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Co-op Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Good morning. Welcome, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Co-op. This morning, I have the pleasure of speaking with Janet Bennett-Cox out of Toronto, Canada. Good morning, Janet.
Hi, good morning. Janet Bennett-Cox.
Oh, I didn't say that. Okay.
Yeah.
Janet Bennett-Cox. Thank you. Thank you.
And it's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us and sharing with us. We're celebrating Black History Month, and the theme this year is African Americans and the arts. So we're going to talk a bit about what you're doing in the arts, but before we do that, can you tell me a little bit about you to get the audience to know who you are? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What's your work life was like in the past?
Okay. Well, I am a proud Jamaican.
That's the accent I hear. Okay.
Yes, very proud Jamaican of Jamaican heritage. And as a matter of fact, I've spent most of my life in Canada, but I make sure I go back home as often as possible. That meaning mostly every year. And I actually went to a boarding school in Jamaica. Yes, they still do exist. I went to Westwood High School, which was a girls' boarding school with only 200 girls, of which some of those women, 50 years later, were still best friends. I have two of those ladies that I went to school with, and we're here in Toronto, and I do say they're some of the longevity of having bonded with a boarding school, it's awesome. So I'm married to Fred Cox, and we do have a family business. That's Liquid Green Products. And Liquid Green, we manufacture green cleaning products. So everything for cleaning your bathroom, to your toilet bowl, to your fruits and vegetables or water in your garden. We do that without any chemicals. And from that union, I have two children, Kira and Kofi. And Kira is in real estate and has provided me with two beautiful grandchildren. And grandchildren, we were talking before the show. We should have skipped a generation, just get
to the grandchildren, yes.
But Maxwell turns 8 tomorrow, and Maya turned 5 last month. And they're really, honestly, before we had children, we always heard people say, grandchildren, they always talk about their grandchildren. So now what I am doing is we're actually going to, with our company, Liquid Green, we're coming out with a new brand that's going to be called Maya Max. And that's a whole line of children's products. We're going to market to the grandparents who love their grandchildren more than anybody else in the world. So the co-op space, I got involved with cooperatives through, should I continue on this?
Please, yes.
Okay. Through a lady who is now a friend, and her name is Esther Enyolo. And she had a charitable organization called WMRCC, Women's Multicultural Resource and Counselling Center. And we were at one of these pop-up, the shows, the community shows where you're touting, showing your business. And they were there at a table, and we were there with Liquid Green. And we talked. And I found out in the upcoming weeks, they were going to be making a presentation where they're talking about cooperatives. And they were introducing worker cooperatives for women, how women could be in business, work together, help each other, etc. I knew nothing about cooperatives. The only thing I knew about cooperatives is that they're the banks, the cooperative credit unions.
Yes.
Those are the ones we know about. And I know in Jamaica, they had quite a few. In the Caribbean and I think in Africa, the cooperative space is really quite common. It's popular. The farming cooperatives, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to that meeting, and at the same time, I was actually involved with another group. This was a community group that was pioneered by a health practitioner, and that was called Partners in Wellness. Now, what happened there? There was a bunch of women that I went back and I told them about it. And so we had 24 women who showed up at Esther's meeting talking about co-ops. And from that, we actually started 4 worker cooperatives for all Black women.
Wow. Okay.
So, of which today we're going to talk about Ebony Care Cooperative. And that's a senior-led co-op. I'm on the board for...
Before you go on, how long ago was your first meeting with these 24 ladies to talk about co-ops?
That was pre-COVID in 2018.
So okay, not that long ago.
Not
Okay.
that long ago. And then we became officially incorporated in 2019. And then, COVID came and kind of put a hammer in everybody's business. But since COVID, we have revived, and I work with several other women on the Cleaning Cooperative of Ontario, and that co-op is going really, really well. We have grown. We have probably 24 members, and the Ebony Care is quickly becoming the second one that we can say is progressing really well.
So there's a part of your background that you haven't talked about.
What's that?
27 years as an elementary school teacher.
Teacher. Oh my goodness. How could I forget that?
Yes.
The bulk of my life, right? It's funny. I came to Canada in grade 13, and I really wanted to be like what's her name? Amanpour. I wanted to be a journalist.
Okay.
And I wanted to travel and, be the correspondent in the war zone, etc. That I think if I had a choice or knew how to do, that would have been my passion. But instead, I traversed into the elementary teaching with several of my friends. It's, back in the day, it was teaching, nursing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was usual fields. But I enjoyed 27 years as an elementary teacher. I have taught all the grades. I think my favorite was grade 2 because you sit and you read them stories and they're playing with your pantyhose
Okay.
and in their hands along your feet while you're reading them the story, And I really like grade 7 and 8 because at that point their minds they're inquisitive, they're inquiring, and they have opinions, they're opinionated. A lot of teachers don't like that grade, but I really love that grade.
Well, the reason I wanted to go there, my mother was an elementary school teacher, okay? And I have a lot of heart for school teachers, particularly how hard teachers work, and in the U.S., maybe they pay more in Canada, but
They do actually.
They do actually?
Yeah.
Yes.
In Canada, I think teachers get paid more, but in the U.S., nurses get paid more.
Okay.
So you find a lot of the Canadian nurses are moving to the U.S. for jobs.
And then to keep from going to Vietnam, I taught 1 year in Cleveland, Ohio, and I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I didn't like that.
I'm telling you, a lot of teachers they're very opinionated. But you know what I did? I was always interested in the business world. And so what I would do sometimes, I would bring in, at that point, liquid green did not exist as yet, But Frederick and I, my husband, we've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So we used to market champagne. It's non-alcoholic champagne, pepper sauce, and different things. But I would bring in this non-alcoholic champagne into the school for the grade 7s and 8s on a Monday morning with Tim Hortons donuts, and we would have meetings, and we'd pretend we were in the office, you know? And so the kids had a lot of fun with that. We would even invite the principal and talk about, why do we get so much homework? And why is recess not longer? Just things like that we would do. That's, I thought, to work with kids.
Yes.
You know, it was fun. I had fun.
So I should not say I didn't like it, because I really enjoyed that year in teaching those students. But what I had to do, because I was 22 years old and they were 13, 14, 15, and 16.
Oh.
So the boys tried me on the basketball court. That was easy. I knocked them down, say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and pick them back up. But the girls were a little bit tougher, and so this was a Catholic school, and so I went to the nun and said, "Here's my problem. What do I do with this?" And she helped me with some strategies, including growing a beard so I would look older. But I taught college for 10 years, and I totally enjoyed that. Totally enjoy that. And that's this, when I've got introduced to co-ops, what I liked about it is the fifth principle: education, training, and information. Basically training adults on how to run a business and how to solve problems and conflict resolution without having to go to, here I say, OK Corral. I don't know if you know that movie.
Yes.
Okay. So it's getting to be able to solve conflict without going to the OK Corral. So I like the fifth principle, and that's what I first loved about co-ops. So you have not been in this co-op world but for 5 going on 6 years.
Yes. And it's amazing. We've started outside of those 4 worker co-ops. We have another co-op that we started that need to work on it, but that's the Ontario Tenant Co-op. And that is going to be to work with helping folks who are underprivileged, because as you know, the housing crisis in Canada, I don't know about the rest of the world, I can speak effectively in Canada with the refugees, etc. It has reached a point of emergency situation. So we're working with other organizations to see what we can do in the cooperative world to raise funds to build low income projects.
Okay.
Right? But that's another story.
Well, that's a very interesting story, because I got involved in co-ops because I was managing housing co-ops in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
So that's how I got in. That was 27 years ago or so.
Oh, it's okay.
But we're going to take our first break.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial. Welcome back, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Cooperative. I'm speaking to Janet Bennett-Cox today, and she is in Canada, but she's originally from Jamaica. And she and her husband has a business called Liquid Green Products, Inc. That's a manufacturing company that produces and markets a line of natural, eco-superior cleaning products.
Right.
And she's been helping to start some co-ops in Canada. So, Janet, as you're looking at what do you find are the benefits of co-ops?
Okay. So many, because as we say, when you run your own business, there are certain challenges. First of all, it's basically my husband and myself, and we hire on a as per needs basis. So if we have an order and we need to get a lot more packaging, done, then we'll hire students to help. And of course, we'll bring on all the family members. But in a cooperative space, we have a board, and basically you have a bigger range of opinions in what the business should be, how it should look, etc. It presents one benefit. It also can be a bigger challenge because, of course, the more folks, the less meeting of the minds. But I think it leads to it generates healthy feedback in terms of how we move forward. Sometimes, however, that's why we always have 7 or 5, so we can break ties. Because with the cooperative space, I'm sure most of your listeners will know, everyone is entitled to one vote, no matter how much money you've invested or your position. I don't care if you're the president or the newest member on the team, you're entitled to one vote. And your vote is just as important as everybody else's. So for us as Black women, I believe women are a force to be reckoned with.
Okay.
I'm sure if it was a group of Black men, it would be different. Sorry, men, no disrespect meant. But I believe women should rule the world because we can argue, but we get over it. We have bright ideas and everybody is willing to support. I think the cumulative support within the group is awesome. Sometimes not everybody is available. For example, say a board meeting. And that is one, I think, of the biggest challenges because women, all the other obligations they have with the family, getting in home from work, kids, etc., that presents sometimes a bigger challenge. But the collaborative decision making, I think, is great. And for us, the cultural relevance, the cultural sensitivity, I believe it's awesome. And Ebony Care, all the co-ops that we work with, that's a priority. And for Ebony Care, since that's what we're talking about, the whole idea with that was to provide an enriched environment that was culturally sensitive for our aging seniors. So when somebody is in the hospital and there's a call from the hospital and they're looking for an agency to help somebody who's been released, we don't want that senior who is probably from the Caribbean or Africa or, to be released into, say, an Oriental home or an Indian home where things are going to be different. The whole idea is to get those folks as they age into homes that the food's going to be different. The way they talk to people will be different. I'll tell you a real personal story. My mom had Alzheimer's and she was in a daycare. Mm-hmm. And as a Jamaican, she said to them one day, I'm going to lick you, and she was joking. She was teasing. And they called us and they had us take her away because they said, I'm going to lick you means I'm going to hit you. Mm-hmm. All right? And they thought she was being violent. Mm-hmm. It was so ridiculous, Vernon. It was so ridiculous. But we ended up having to find her another space. So that's the kind of cultural sensitivity I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. The food is so critical that folks want to eat when they're older. And so the co-op space it's just so much easier to work. Now, let's say I wanted to go away on a vacation. From Liquid Green, the amount of things we're going to have to do to make sure things run smoothly. When you're in the co-op, it's everybody knows what's going on. We have so many people who are leaders that it's so much easier to take a vacation then because, the company is going to run smoothly whether or not you're there. because of the collaborative efforts of everyone involved. So
I've been told that one of the reasons that there aren't more worker co-ops is because it just takes a lot of hard work, a lot of time getting educated and learning how to work together, as you were just talking about, and then learning the rules and regulations and the values and principles of cooperation.
yes.
Have you found that to be true in any way?
1,000%. I won't even say 100%, 1,000%. And I believe because of everything that's involved, because as you say, it is really, it's the same thing. It's a business. But what I found the most difficult, the most challenging was for people to come, when people joined, when, our members, they had to really think of this as their own business, right? And therefore, not just that you're coming in and giving a couple of hours, but think of it as your own and grow it. Put that interest, put the time in to learn. And it's a big learning curve because by the time we spend so much time on our bylaws, right? And getting it right. But the fantastic thing about co-ops is that one of the rules is that cooperatives are there to help other co-ops. And so we got a lot of help from other co-ops in the area. And we were able to get, we're currently working on a grant. We're looking at grants that are available to help cooperatives, right, in terms of running the business. Because marketing, with every business, marketing is a challenge. And in the co-op space, it's probably a bigger challenge because we have to agree that a percentage of the budget has to be spent on marketing and everybody has to be on the same page, right? So learning and the time for the meetings, that is one of the big challenges that we have. I mean, up to a couple of weeks ago, and I'm guilty. We had a meeting scheduled and I had double booked. So the night before I realized, oh my God, and I didn't choose to attend the co-op meeting because I know I could catch up, So there are these challenges. But in terms of advocacy, in terms of what we do to advocate for community, that is what is the essence. And I know our president, she's the president of the Cleaning Co-op, who's also involved in the Ebony Care Cooperative. There are three of us that are on board, Jennifer Miller. And the passion that we get from people who are, most of the people on the board is really exemplary in terms of wanting to make this work.
So
right?
What I'm hearing you say is, yes, it's hard work. And with Principle 6, which is cooperation among co-ops, you found that you can get help from the whole co-op ecosystem, people that are in co-ops in and around Toronto, Ontario, that you can get help and they are gladly help you, which is what I've seen here in the U.S. also. But it does take time, particular meetings, and learning how to run a good meeting where it lasts an hour, hour and a half, and not 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. Yeah, that's. And there's one other thing you said I just want to pull out is that you had to get your bylaws right. And I just want to say you get your bylaws right for that group. Every group would have it. We're going to take our second break. Okay. We'll be right back and we'll talk to you, Janet, about some of the things that you all are doing right now. We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial. Welcome back, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Co-op. Janet is our guest today. Janet, we've been on the air now a little over 10 years, 10 years, 3 or 4 months. And the National Cooperative Bank has been our primary sponsor, both financially and our biggest cheerleader over all of that time.
Wow.
NCB's mission is to support and be an advocate for America's cooperatives and their members, especially in low-income communities, by providing innovative financial and related services. So I know NCB doesn't do any loans in Canada, but it's because it's U.S. and it was created in the 80s specifically to help create co-ops, to help find the funding that's needed for co-ops. You were talking about the benefits of co-ops, and I would like to. Do you foresee, or have you seen where the members of the co-op make more money or learn how to manage their money better?
Well, right now, no, because we're not making the kind of money where, I'll use a cleaning co-op, for example. We do have about 24 members. Many of those folks are actually working as cleaners in the field, and they get a better than average wage than a cleaner from a non-co-op space probably would. Because in Canada, the minimum wage is almost $17 per hour, and we pay a few dollars over that.
Is that U.S. dollars or?
Oh no,
Canadian dollars. Okay.
Canada, yeah. And so we pay more than the minimum wage, because in order to attract good workers, they have to have value, and everything globally is so expensive, food, and we're talking about lower income jobs, correct? Mm-hmm. And so if they can't make an honest wage, it's going to be a problem attracting and keeping workers. Now, one of the challenges we have, Vernon, is with the cleaning co-op, when we, as a company, as a cooperative, we now we have workers who belong in the company, but we can hire outside. We have to charge a higher rate to that customer, because cleaning has a lot of mama and papa's jobs, the ones who can afford to charge the least. And nowadays, people are just looking for the bottom line. What's the least I can pay to have somebody come in? Now, we offer a value because we use our products, the liquid green products, which are, when I'm telling you, it's the best on the market, and I say that without prejudice.
Okay.
As our cleaning. So we offer green cleaning, which a lot of other companies cannot do, right? So we're in a bit of a catch-22, because we have to ask for a higher price so that we can pay our cleaners a great wage and still make a few dollars profit for the cooperative, because we need money to run the business, to do the marketing. None of us get paid for anything. We're just hoping that within the next few years, we're going to be big enough that we'll be an entity, we'll be a force to reckon with.
Well, but I think you've answered my question in that you all would pay a couple dollars more than what they would. The lowest in Canada, 17, and you all would pay up to 19. Right. But the mom and pops may even charge less than 17 for the job. So I got it. Now, I found that financial benefits is one of the critical things that happens for people in co-ops, or the workers. But the benefits that's better than that to me is the benefit of self-worth. In a co-op, in training, they have to learn how to speak up. Mm-hmm. But when they speak up, people listen and may even put their idea into action. But even the idea for in the cleaning is, when can you work? To have some say about when they can work based on when their children go to school or whatever else they have. I assume that's true because that's what's true in the U.S., but they get a much bigger say over their life than a normal job in a normal capitalistic space.
That's right. And that's correct. Now, we don't have as much of a problem because a lot of the women that are involved, they are already, the family is older, right? So we don't have the issues with younger children and trying to carve space into the work world. And we have enough members that we can say, okay, if Susan and John, not John, we do hire men as well for the tougher jobs, that's cleaning. If we have somebody that who cannot do that job, it's so much easier to just get somebody else. Right? So we don't, it has not been an issue for us. The issue that we have is having the cleaners, when they come on, to actually join us and become members.
Okay.
And not just work for the income, but see the value in the other part of it, which is working to help make the decisions. What should the training look like? What are the new things we should introduce? What are some things that we shouldn't be doing? So that, I think, is our biggest problem, trying to attract new members to share that value, to see that, yes, we're not just we're not just working to clean or as a PSW going into somebody's home, but this is my business. And I did talk about that previously.
Yeah, well, that's the critical piece, is getting that mental change from a worker to an owner. And it's the same thing in the housing. The biggest challenge was getting folks to go from a tenant mentality to an owner mentality.
But I think, Vernon, with the housing, even though it's a housing co-op and you technically own it, because I think I used to live in a housing co-op long years ago when we were first married, and you had to volunteer, you had to be a part of it. But I never did look at that as my home, because I was always wanting to move out and buy my own house. So do you think that's why that happens with the housing co-ops? Because people, they don't see it as my own property. It's just a temporary move until you're in your own space. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I did not find that to be the problem, because most people did not even have that as their dream, to move from the co-op to their own house. They stayed in the place of, I am a renter. I am in an apartment building. Come and fix this for me. And I won't take care of it as well, because the man will come fix it when it messes up, not knowing they are the man. The man is I. Okay. Now, there are some people that would use both the knowledge gain in a multifamily co-op plus the savings to help buy a condo or a house. Most people would want a house.
Yeah.
It gets harder in Washington, D.C., I would assume in Toronto, too, when, I don't know, average house is maybe $400,000 now. It's high. I don't know what it is, but it's high.
No, I'll tell you what it is. It's over $1 million. The average home in Toronto is over $1 million. Most people cannot afford a home anymore unless you're going to come together as a unit with family or friends and own. To rent in Toronto right now, a one-bedroom is about $2,300. It is crazy.
Same thing here for a one-bedroom in D.C. And I live in a co-op. It's a market rate co-op, and our carrying charge is $387, and the board just approved last night to increase that by 5%, because we haven't had an increase in 10 years.
Wow.
We haven't had a need, but we decided that we would do an increase of 5%. So, and I've been living here for 14 or 15 years, but I've owned it maybe 22 years. So it's it's still a good value because it's harder to get financing for co-ops, the share loans and so forth.
Yes.
It's harder to get the blanket loan and the share loans.
But it just means, Vernon, that your cooperative is being run by, the management is excellent. Because sometimes we find that if management is not good, then the project doesn't work, right?
Well, I would just add a little with my experience, and I managed this co-op for 21 years. It's management and the board being a team.
Correct.
Because I've had the same management company and the co-op goes under or down or is not successful because board members were greedy or for power or money or whatever. Yeah, but you gotta have that teamwork between management and governance, the board of directors, and if you have that, you can be extremely successful. So I just want to go back. You said there are 4 co-ops that you are working on. A cleaning co-op is one. What's the other 3?
Okay, Ebony Care is the one we're going to talk about a little more later. And we also had Harmony Creative Cooperative. And Harmony was a sewing co-op. And that was for women, whether you needed a socks darned or you needed haute couture. They could make wedding dresses. They could make suits for men. All right. So again, COVID is just such a killer. Mm-hmm. So that group, it's a not-for-profit. 4 of the co-ops, 2 were for-profit entities and 2 were set up as not-for-profit entities. And so that group continues, and I know what they're doing right now. They make a lot of things like tablecloths for events. And for example, we use them to make the uniforms for the cleaning co-op. The uniforms were made by the sewing co-op. And so we try as much as possible to help. And of course, when they need anything cleaned, it's the cleaning co-op that if somebody needs their house, I know, or one of our first contracts as a cleaning company was with a member who was from the sewing co-op, Yvonne.
Okay.
Right? So we do a lot of that. The other one is Kumba Childcare Cooperative. Now that started as a for-profit co-op, and we have had to make significant changes. We've actually closed it down because in Toronto, in Ontario, there is such a huge issue with childcare. And so the government has come in and they're putting a lot in order to stay in power. Childcare is one of the big areas where they have to make changes. And so the for-profit childcare agencies are not doing well because they have to compete with the government-sponsored, the not-for-profits in terms of the childcare space. And because of that, we're now in the process of changing from being a for-profit to a not-for-profit, where there's just so much more help available. And the fees you can charge so much less, right? So that's the issue. And as I said, these 4 cooperatives were started through WMRCC, and they actually had gotten a grant from Trillium. Trillium Foundation is one of the grants. They give money to not-for-profits. And that $250,000 that went through Esther's organization, some of that was used, or most of it, I guess, to fund these cooperatives. As a matter of fact, they're still working on others. They have a translator co-op. They have an artist co-op.
We're going to stop right there.
Okay.
And take our final break.
Oh, wow.
And when we come back, I wanted to spend more time talking about Ebony Care Cooperative and the artwork that you are doing between the seniors and the young people. We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial. Hello, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Co-op. Our guest is Janet Bennett-Cox. Janet, I am 76 years old. I have Thank you. I had a heart
And
bypass transplant in March of last year, and I could have used. Now, I had a couple friends that come and stay with me a total of 4 months, but I could have used home health care.
right.
So, what would Ebony Care Cooperative do for somebody like me, who's a baby boomer, and there's a lot of us out there that are that have issues and need somebody to come into the home? What could Ebony Care Cooperative do for somebody like me?
Okay, I love that question because that's exactly why we're here. Now, by the way, you, as I said, you look really good for 76, and you don't look as if you had any issues at all. So the help you got was great. Here you are back on your
Well,
show.
I'd say bless God. I mean, came from up there. Okay.
And do you know that baby boomers used to be the biggest market?
Yes.
That has changed just this week, I heard. It's now the millennials that have taken over as the biggest force in the world, right?
Okay.
But now, if you were our client, we would have a nurse phone talk, if not with you because you were ill, but with a family member, and they would actually do an assessment, a in-home assessment, to find out where would you best be. Would you need to go into a facility, into one of the homes? We do have a couple of homes that are private because we work with other organizations that if we don't have a home, then we can send Passionate Care is one of those that we work with, and we can send folks into that home. So once we have the assessment done, we find out, what do you need? Do you need a PSW, or do you need a nurse, or do you need a registered nurse, or do you need a RNA, which is a registered nursing assistant? Do you also need cleaning? So we have, again, this is how the co-ops work together. Because if you need the PSW to come in, some of the cleaning services can be provided. But we will take care of your meals. We will help you shop. We can take you to the bank. We can take you for...
I'm sorry, you're going to take care of my meals? Okay.
Sure.
Right.
Somebody
what you going to feed me, green beans and potatoes?
No, we're going to feed you what you want. But if you don't want steak and potatoes, we can give you green bananas and ackee. Okay?
Okay.
Or we can give you liver, or we can give you saltfish, or we can give you anything. Whether if you're Guyanese, we can do the Caribbean dishes. If you're Trini and you need to have some spinach mixed up with crab, we will provide the cultural dishes. All right.
Jen, I'm so sorry. I want to stop this. I want this spinach with crab. Okay, we can, that sounds wonderful. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the meals are number one, because when you're in that state, if you're not eating something you like, okay, and we do so much of the what do you call them, the smoothies. And we will put Karila in a smoothie because that's good for someone. Karila is bitter lemon, right?
Okay.
Which is a cleanser, and that's what in the blue zones, the Japanese folks, that's what they use. That the people that live the longest in the world.
100 plus. Yeah.
Right. These are some of the foods they eat. So we also look after the washing, like the laundry. Right? If somebody needs help for laundry, we can do that either in your home or take it away and bring it back. Lots of seniors, when they get ill, they need to declutter. So we offer the decluttering services. If they need things, up to yesterday, myself and another member, we actually went to somebody's home. She is going to become a member. She's not a member yet, but we've talked about membership. And her mom just passed away. And so we went in and we removed all the clothes and packaged them. Thank you, Bernadette. We're sorry for your loss, but your mom's clothes is going to a church. And some of the clothes are going to be sent, and the shoes will be sent to Ghana for we collect things as a medical mission. As I said, the co-op, we work with other organizations. And the other organization that does the clothing and the medical supplies, that's Gift of Life, also Black women. And we send clothes all over Africa. We collect stuff from the hospitals that are in excess. And then those supplies are sent to Jamaica, they're sent to Liberia, they're sent Cuba.
Okay.
It's amazing how the industry, everything just is
Works
so
together.
Yeah.
So Ebony Care Cooperative has a project with the seniors that could have been somebody like me that you were taking care of in home health care, and young people. Tell us about that project, because that's where the arts come in.
Yes, that is an awesome project. We haven't started it yet. I have taken the course from this. He's a Ugandan artist. His name is David Kibuka, and I'm going to spell Kibuka. It's Kibuuka. David Kibuka. And as a matter of fact, there are two prominent David Kibukas out of Uganda. One is a comedian, so not him. This one is the artist, and he does a work that's called modern batik. Now, for most people who don't know batik originated in Indonesia, and it's all about wax and how wax is used on different material, right? But what David did, he transferred that, and he can now use it on fabric. So when a senior from Ebony Care joins that art program, it doesn't matter what their skill level is. They probably never picked up a paintbrush in their whole life. But this is something that you start with a pattern, and he gives you the pattern, or if you're artistic, you can draw your own pattern. And from that pattern, you use inks to trace, and then it's waxed, it's dyed, and then once the wax is taken off, then it's painted, and the inks are there to add detail and texture, etc. I know this because I've done the class,
Okay.
and that's why I'm so passionate about his work. And I myself, Janet Bennett-Cox, I have zero artistic ability. When I drew something on the chalkboard to illustrate something in class, the kids would say, "What's that?" So that's how bad I was, right?
Okay.
I have my work from David Kibuka hanging in my house. I have two pieces that I did. People come to my house and they say, "Oh, I really like that." And I said, "I did it." And they're like blown away. I'm blown away.
Okay.
From that, sorry, go ahead.
How would you get young people involved in this?
Now, the young people we're working together with Gift of Life, they have a youth program. So the young people, we thought it would be fantastic to get the young people together as well as the older people. Because what I find is the classes are very relaxing. It's a lot, you're sitting there for 3-4 hours at a time. So the conversation between the seniors and the youth, there's going to be a lot of learning that will take place. David has done classes where he has youth separately, and he's done where he has seniors separately. But we think that getting the combined energy of youth and seniors, you know what life is like when you're with your older grandchildren. It's a different world between the youth and the seniors. Sometimes they don't see eye to eye on so many things.
Oh, totally different world.
Yeah. And so I know the experience is going to be fantastic for both groups, because I can almost hear the conversations, and there's going to be help. The youth are going to be able to help the seniors. And batik is, you have a blow dryer that's going to help to dry the paint when it's done. He uses a rice cooker so that you can immerse the cloth in it for the wax. And you don't immerse the cloth. You use a paintbrush and you paint the wax on the piece. Okay. But Vernon, here's what I really like about it. At the end of the day, somebody can actually have their own business created from this work. Because when that piece is done, he actually takes them to the printer to show them how to turn that piece that they did into fabric. All right. And
Okay.
that fabric now is used to make scarves, and it's used to make handbags and shoes, and it can be sold. Right.
So Janet Bennett-Cox, we've only got a minute or so left. What message do you have for people then? I mean, you're creating all of this. How do you see the future of co-ops?
I think co-ops is the way to go, because as I said, it was started, the cooperative lifestyle, I believe, was started way back in the the African days. And I believe it's culturally, I believe it's, if we were able to work together, now cooperatives in general, yes, but especially when it comes to the Black community, I think if we were able to go back to some of the days when we really, honestly, tried to work together. I think when anybody talks about the Black community, one of the things you hear is we don't work, we don't support each other. I believe it's not true.
That's not true.
And I believe with the cooperative effort is one of the best ways to do it. And so with that, I thank you so much for the opportunity to talk so much about so many things. And I would feel terrible if I didn't tell folks how to find David Kabuka online. So if you just use the name David Kabuka, Modern Batik, you will find him.
Okay.
All right.
That's all the time we have. I really appreciate your taking the time to talk with us today. Everybody out there, we'll see you next Thursday. We'll still celebrate Black History Month. And please live cooperatively.
Thank you so much.